Hello and welcome to the demonstration for the CPM-200 sign and label system. My name's John. I look after UK sales for Lighthouse and for the CPM products for Max Corporation. And with James today, he's part of our technical team, so he's going to go through the software, how the printer works, and how it sort of links, and go through it in a little bit more detail. What I thought I'd do first of all, just before I show you the solid bit of kit, I'll go through the demonstration boards just to go through some of the examples, applications, potential sort of justification for actually purchasing the system, and advantages over other products and sort of buying the signage in. So the system, CPM-200, stands for cut print machine, works on 200mm wide material. System's thermal transfer printer. So you've got the resin ribbon physically burns onto the face of the vinyl. The reason we use sort of thermal transfer printers, it means you just don't need to laminate the material. It's going to last outside in different weather conditions. It means you don't get any smudges in print. It's burnt onto the face of the vinyl straight away. The system cuts the label to any shape or size, so even though it works on a 200mm wide roll, you can do bespoke shapes with it, you can do cut lettering with it, and it just means you can do sort of smaller labels within the 200mm as well. So it just gives you the flexibility to produce different types of signs and labels. So what I'll do is I'll go through the demonstration boards. So different sort of applications. So the first board, obviously you've got at the top there 6S lean, so things like continuous improvement programs, continuous improvement messages that you want to get across. So this system, like I say, is 200mm wide, but it actually does process colour, so full CMYK. So there's not any other system out there that does CMYK, process colour and cuts within one unit. So it's quite a unique product in that sense. But this just means you can obviously put bespoke messages out. So great if you're a continuous improvement manager or operations manager, production manager, where you're looking to get these messages out across site. Just make sure everything's in its right place. Basically, these are just PDFs that you drop into the software. So you have a template in the software and you can just drag and drop images on there. So if you've already got these messages, whether it's a monthly like corporate message that you want to get across, so you can drag and drop that into the software. Price wise, looking for full colour CMYK, the price on the bottom is £2.57, so under £3 for something that you can actually put outside. Compared to buying in bespoke message like that, you're probably looking sort of £10–15 per sign, and also it's the lead time on getting it in. Something like this people want to put up straight away. They don't have to be waiting 2 to 3 weeks for a sign company to produce it for them. So yeah, just gives you a few examples of sort of the continuous improvement side. On this one here, we've got things like SOPs, standard operating procedures. So you can actually go out on site, take a physical picture, whether it's a service instruction, whether it's just basically how to operate that piece of machinery. You can add wording along the bottom. So again, it's great. It makes it site specific, makes it specific to that sort of plant equipment or whatever it is. In this case, it's a pipe. Next to it, I've just got the pipe marking colours here. So with this system, we supply all the different official British standard sort of pipe marker colours, and obviously you can cut them to any shape or size there. So again, sort of full colour A4, you're looking under £3. Other side, just sort of simple sort of messages that you can get across. These are used for temporary signage, so things like temporary road signs. Again, used quite a lot through hospitals. So if there's any different messages, again, you want to get across in hospitals, you can adapt. You can change it quickly. So you've got on here, the software is capable of doing barcode language, different ways you can produce that. You can either manually type the number in, you can do a sequential number, or you can link it to an external source, so you can bring data in, and that changes the different variables and obviously changes the barcode there. So that gives you an idea of that. On this side, again, sort of things like visual management, you can actually use it for things like shadow boards. So you can actually put a picture of the tool on there. The boards themselves, we supply PVC, Foamex, different sizes, whatever suits sort of your application. So again, you can print these off, stick them on a board. If you're looking at things like shadow boards or a full visual management board, whether it's like an information board, you're looking sort of about £100 per board. To produce something off our system, you're looking sort of £10 to £20, obviously depending on the size of the board that you're looking to actually produce. But again, just another great application, things like shadow boards that you can use it for across site. Again, another example of like an operator procedure. So again, you can stick these on production lines. It means that someone doesn't have to go back to a manual, don't have to go back to the desk. It's on there. It's not a laminated sheet that you might have to replace sort of every week. It's something that's on industrial grade material, and it's, you know, you can wipe it down, wash it down, and it's going to be visible for everyone to see. Again, sort of instructions on the bottom there. People use them to put on either waste drums, or whether it's to indicate what's actually in the container. But again, you can take a physical picture, put it into the software, and you can print it off, and it's an instant sort of fix for things. Good application that we sort of come across this year for the systems, visual stores. So a lot of people put a picture of they put the part number, or they'll put a location number on there. Some people go as far as barcoding it. Obviously they can trace it that way. But what a lot of our customers are starting to like is the fact you can put a physical picture of the part or a physical picture of the product onto the rack. So it's great for things like stock takes, and it's a visible check just to make sure that product's in the right place. And it means that people don't become number blind, and they're just, you know, if you've got an experienced person that's worked in stores or worked in a warehouse for a certain amount of time, it's fine, they know where everything is. But if you've got temporary staff or new staff coming in, it's good for them to have these extra sort of visual checks. So you can put that on there. And again, these are either PDFs or they're drawings, so you can actually bring it in as a variable into the software, and so you can link it with the relevant part number. Again, sort of warehousing, racking, that kind of thing. You can produce all your weight load limits. You can actually produce sort of rack labels with it as well. Like I mentioned earlier, you've got the barcode along the bottom there, so you can bring in different variables. So yeah, again, it's great. You can just put bespoke information on there, so it means you don't have to buy these things in. So these are PDFs again that have been bought in. So if you've got different areas where you need specific signage going up, whether it's at sinks or whether it's sort of wash down areas, that kind of thing, you can use it for that. Chemical symbols, these are all built into the software. So the software comes with a library of just over 1,000 different symbols. So you've got the GHS symbols, mandatory, prohibition, warning symbols. They're all in there. So hazard information sheets like this you can produce off the system. Another great application, things like site plans. So a lot of people already have these site plans, and either they're laminated sheets, they don't look great on the front of doors, but also sometimes they can't put them on the outside of sites. So things like drivers, you know, if you want to put it on the outside of sites just so they know they're in the right place, different locations, that kind of thing, you can actually put it on the external parts of the building. You've got that. Again, sort of any corporate messages that you want to get across, you've got that. And then this just shows the detail that you can go down to with a printer. So it cuts the label to any shape or size. So you can actually do like a nested set of labels if you wanted to produce that. So you've got that in there. And the great thing is you can bring logos in, you can bring branding in. So it's just not a generic sort of health and safety sign or label. You can actually make it look better across site. And again, so sort of more examples of things like safety labels, nested sets of labels on there. Another site plan that you've got on there. And then going through to things like your health and safety signage. So you've got fire action notices, fire call points. Again, you don't need to go as far as putting a barcode on there. You can just put the number on if you want to. But this just gives you an idea of, you know, potentially what people can do across site. This sign here, price is £2.93, so just under £3. I think a lot of people, fire action notices, especially with this kind of information on, they're paying at least £5 to £10 plus. and that's just like self-adhesive vinyl. When you stick it on a board, obviously the price goes up. But that just gives you some examples of what you can use the system for. In regards to sort of material for the printer, comes on self-adhesive roll. So the vinyl rolls work out, they're just around £4 a metre for the vinyl. The actual ribbons, they're £50 for 50 metres, so £1 a metre ongoing. Initially you buy it in a cartridge, so I'll show you that in a second. But that just gives you an idea of the cost ongoing for the actual printer. So compare it to buying in, it's a lot cheaper. Generally, most of our customers, they can justify getting one of our printers sort of within one to 2 years. Depends on the projects that they've got going on and the requirement that they've got going on at that point. But they're very cost effective against buying in. Against other printers, it's the most flexible printer. You know, prints 200mm wide, cuts the label to any shape or size, and does process colour. So like I mentioned earlier, there's no other system out there that does it all within one unit and in sort of the processes that it does it. So I'll show you the actual physical hardware. So if I just turn this round, so you can see it's relatively small considering the signs it actually creates. You know, it's a desktop unit, so you can sit it right next to your PC in an office environment. You don't need a whole sign shop sort of set up for it. So in the back here, you've got the self-adhesive roll. So like I was saying, it's 200mm wide. It's sprocket fed just to keep the accuracy in the print and the cut. So when you do the multiple passes, it draws it back to the correct point. You've got a thermal ribbon. So it comes in cartridges. Has an RFID tag that sits inside the cartridge. So it tells you how much is left on the ribbon, what colour ribbon's in there, so you can't put the wrong one in. Puts a different heat setting through each ribbon. So you've got the thermal print head there. So when we place the cartridge back in, like that, it just clicks in. When you shut the hatch, it physically burns it onto the face of the material there. And then on this side, you've got the cutter blade, so that's the tungsten blade that die cuts all your labels for you. So it does 5 miles of cutting, so you're dependent on which material that we supply. So some materials are slightly tougher, slightly thicker, but on vinyl, so up to 5 years. So that basically goes across the axis and the material goes in and out. If I shut the hatch, this side, self-explanatory, on-off switch, manual feed key, manual cut key. And you've just got the dial, the pressure dial here, so it just changes the depth for the material. Then on the front here, you've just got a cutter, basically cuts off after your set of labels. So it's a guillotine cut. With the system and the software, you can actually network the software. So it comes with that capability. Software is multi-license. You can load it on as many PCs. It just depends on how you want to set it up. But yeah, the software comes with the actual system. What I'll do now is I'll pass over to James. He can go through how the software works. He can do an example of CMYK printed label. So if I pass over to him now.
Hello, so I'm James. I'm just going to take you through a quick CMYK label that you can actually print on the CPM-200. So we're going to do an NHS label, which is actually a graphic that we're importing. So without further ado, go to File and New. Select your corresponding printer, so the MAX CPM-200E. So now you have a blank label that's set up with some, I think it's about 200 by 300 roughly. So more often than not, you are going to want to resize your label. So if you double click outside in the grey area, just so you don't, it's more, the reason I say that is because if you have any objects in the label, which I know I don't here, but it just means you're not going to accidentally select one of them. So if I double click there, so this is just like the first screen you saw. So if I go to paper layout, I'm going to keep it as portrait for now. Dimensions. So I would like it to be the full width of the vinyl, so I'm going to keep that to 200. I'm going to change the height to roughly about 130. Let's go with that. The margins should be set to 5 by default, and they will automatically adjust where necessary, so that's fine for now. The radius, the horizontal and vertical, it's currently set to 1 mil. You probably won't be able to see the little radius on the preview or on the label at the minute, but it's purely a visual reference. So if you are trying to match a cut shape to that specific label or anything like that, you can change those, but you can just leave it if you like, but I'm just going to change those back to 0 like that. And then here you have labels across rows and columns. So this is where, if you're printing a batch of labels, you want to increase these. So the columns I won't be able to increase because we're at the full 200mm width of a vinyl. So let's say if I reduce that to 100, you could put 2 columns in. But just for this one, I'm going to increase the rows to 3. And that'll be fine for this one. So on the right hand side, you'll see there's the white label with the 2 grey ones. So anything you actually put into this white label will be duplicated, and depending if you've got variables and things like that, which we're not touching on today, but it is also an option to do. So if I click OK, right, if I just zoom out slightly, so you can see there's 1 white label and 2 grey. So, and here, what I would usually do is put a small gap in between the labels, but I'll explain why I'm not doing that on this occasion a little bit later. But now, there's not really any text or anything to put in because we're printing a graphic. So if I go to picture on the left hand side, fixed picture, and click onto my label, I've got this graphic already saved, so you will have to save it somewhere on your computer. So if I just click on that, it imports it into the label, and now you can adjust it as you see necessary. So drag it, drop it, however you feel is best, like that. So the actual, in terms of the dimensions, it's not quite big enough to drag all the way over. So when I mentioned about not putting a gap in, I will actually do that now. But the reason I wasn't going to is because when you've got a graphic, it's always best to put the cut shape slightly inside it, just so when you do weed the excess off, you've got no background to the vinyl appearing around the edge of the graphic. So because it doesn't actually take up the full width on this occasion, I will just add that little gap in like that. So if you go to Y gap, just add the 1. There we go. So now I'm quite happy with the size of the graphic, but just so it is the full height of the label, if you double click on it, go to appearance, and if I just click on height, but I want to make sure I'm keeping the ratio, so if I click on that, go to 130, there we go. So that's made it slightly wider and slightly higher. And now the only thing to really do with this label is align it. So if I click on the graphic, right click, align, middle, center, and align to label. I've used this kind of setup before, which is why it's automatically selected it. Click OK. And then you will notice along the top here, there's lots of grey boxes where the colour palette would usually be, and that's just simply because we're printing in CMYK colour. So the graphic, the software will automatically detect that it needs to be printed in CMYK. If you don't, you'll just get a monotone graphic, and it clearly won't look like it does there. The final thing to do is to put a cut shape in. So if I go to the drop down arrow here, clip art gallery, CPM, and then cut shapes. There's quite a few different categories in here, so feel free to have a browse through those. But then similarly with the cut shapes, there's lots you can choose from. I'm just going to choose the one that has a 90 by 90 corner on it, but there are lots of different radiuses, so feel free to choose whichever one. Click OK. And then for this purpose, I'm actually going to just make it roughly the same size. Again, you can double click on it and actually specify an exact width and height, but for this purpose I'm going to keep it as it is like now. So now it's relatively aligned, but I'm just going to make sure it is by right clicking on the cut shape, going to align. Again, it's remembering the settings from earlier, align to label ticked, and OK. And there we go. So you can see the cut shape slightly on the inside of the border. It's just so there's no white space, and we've got a nice gap. So if you want to run your scissors down it, or it just makes it easier to weed the excess off that is there. And now, yeah, the final thing to do is to print. So if I just zoom out and show you what it will look like to preview. So File, Print, got the right printer selected. The important thing when actually adjusting the rows and columns and printing a batch of labels on the same page is to actually select pages. So if I just preview that, and it all looks good, so I'm going to go to print. I just move this data monitor over for you. So you'll see there, yellow is already loaded actually inside the printer, so it will automatically start printing, and you can see we've got the cyan, magenta, black ready to go. It will do the magenta next, then the cyan, and then the black. So I'll just change the screen over so you can see the printer in action. Like that. So it prints the yellow first. Don't be alarmed that it looks quite strange initially because it's got to layer all the colours. It will start to take form as you put the other colours in. John's just going to load the next colour for me, which is magenta. If you're wondering, say, if you accidentally put cyan in or you accidentally put black in, don't worry, it won't actually print that because there is a set sequence. So if you do put the wrong colour in, it will tell you, and then just simply swap it over and it will start printing automatically. So you can see there, it's taken a bit more form now. It's got a bit more colour to it, but yeah, there's still a couple of passes to go. So that's cyan going in. And as John was saying, the beauty of the process colour printing is you can just get a graphic, whack it in, and print it in CMYK. It's a 300 dpi printing head, so the detail will be nice and crisp. And there are occasions where you do actually want an image to be incorporated within a bit of text, like this NHS form, for example. If you were to put a picture of a person in and put a bit of separate text, it wouldn't look quite as effective. So it's kind of the beauty of the system, really. So that's just the final colour now, which is the process black, which is printing. So once it's done this, it will start to cut out the individual labels and then chop them off at the end. There you go. So winding back to cut now. I'll chop it off, and John's just going to weed that for us so you can see. There we go. And there you have your 3 labels printed. So what I'm going to do now is just pass you back over to John, and he'll just take you through a couple of extra bits.
So thank you for joining us for the demonstration for the CPM-200 printer, and thanks for James for going through the software there. Just a quick sort of idea. Cost of the printer is $2,950, so excluding VAT. With the system, you get 2 to 3 hours training on site, so we go through how the software works in more detail, and we can make it specific to your application. Get multi-license software, so you can load it on different PCs, so it works on Windows 7, 8 or 10. With the software, you can actually network it, so it's entirely up to you how you want to actually load the software. You get 12 months support, so if you need any help after the actual training session, we can go through how the software works, any materials, so anything at all you need any help with, you get that included, so you can either give us a call, there's online tutorials, so yeah, however we can help sort of afterwards. So you get a standard 12 months warranty with the printer as well. So if you wanted any more information, or you did want an online demonstration of the printer, then feel free to have a look on our website. So it's lighthouse.uk.com, or you can give us a call. All the contact details are on the website. We can go through it in a bit more detail, and we can offer sort of an on-site demonstration. But thanks for joining us, and yeah, we'll speak to you soon.